Hey, truth seekers, welcome back. Zach here. In recent weeks, I've put out videos showing why I think there will be a staged political assassination, most likely of Donald Trump, on May 23rd, 2016. 44 years earlier, in May of 1972, George Wallace was shot while campaigning for president. There's been a lot of parallels made to George Wallace and Donald Trump. People are saying Donald Trump is the most bigoted presidential candidate since George Wallace. Up on the screen here in this video, I talk about the significance of the Kalamazoo shooting hoax from February 20th, 2016 this year. In history, George Wallace was shot by Arthur Bremer, who was arrested in Kalamazoo, Michigan, 2 days before shooting George Wallace on suspicions by the Secret Service. He was let go. He shot George Wallace 2 days later. At least that's the story. A movie was made about Arthur Bremer called Taxi Driver, which stars Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro plays the character of Arthur Bremer. There's a lot of parallels between the movie Taxi Driver and the city Kalamazoo. Kalamazoo is where checker cabs were produced. Robert De Niro drives a checker cab in the film Taxi Driver. I'm going to link this video down in the description. I get into way more information. I just want to give you the gist of that. Since making that video, we've been treated to the story of the Donald Trump tombstone, which was found in Central Park in New York on Easter Sunday. I have a video about all that is significant about that tombstone. Since making these videos, I learned something else that happened on the date of February 20th, 2016, the same day as the Kalamazoo shooting hoax. On that date, Donald Trump won the South Carolina primary by a very suspicious percentage. We're going to get into all that and more. In case you're new to my channel, let's just begin with an example of what I talk about. I talk about the language of gematria, the practice of coding numbers into words. Once you learn this language, you see what a useful tool it is and how the powers that be have always been practicing gematria. In the history of this nation, one of the most popular TV shows is The Twilight Zone. United States of America has gematria of 84. The Twilight Zone equals 84. It was Rod Serling who created the show, at least supposedly. The name Serling has gematria of 84. Right now, the President of the United States is Barack Obama, who has a 8-4 August 4th birthday, and the name Obama in Jewish gematria also equals 84. So anyhow, that's gematria, the practice of coding numbers into words, the relationships between words and number pairings. Like I said, on the date of the Kalamazoo shooting hoax, which had all these ties to history, such as the shooting of George Wallace, and which projected something for the date May 23rd, which we'll get to, on that same date, Donald Trump was winning the primary in South Carolina. And what I noticed about South Carolina, thanks to a follower of this channel who gave me this tip, is that its date of establishment is May 23rd. May 23rd. And we're going to talk about why May 23rd is so significant. Also in the year 1788. May 23rd this year, because it's a leap year, will fall on the 144th day of the year, and the number 144 has a lot to do with killing and assassinations, which we'll get to. Let's begin with just the year of this date, the date of establishment, 1788. Back then you would have just said it was 88 for short. The name Donald Trump, Trump in gematria sums to 88. The name George Washington in Pythagorean gematria also sums to 88. Uncle Sam also sums to 88. So this number has some significance to the presidency, the office that Donald Trump is running for. The date of establishment for South Carolina, it's also a date with 133 numerology. And this stands out because words such as government and White House have gematria of 133. Donald Trump running to be a member of the government, to serve in the White House. And I still remember this shot from his first debate with Fox News. They put this up here. Donald Trump, 133rd richest man in U.S. according to Forbes. And I said, uh-oh, I hope that's not foreshadowing anything. Around that same time, Donald Trump makes his 133rd appearance on Fox Tonight, and this was a national news story. Several people carried this headline, and I just wonder how many people out there look at a headline like this and go, so what? I mean, what's the big deal? The big deal is the mainstream media is very invested in this language of gematria, and they actively taunt the people of this world with it. They know the masses don't know what's significant about 133, but when you learn the language of gematria, it quickly becomes clear. The date of this article, January 27th, 2016, was a date with 44 numerology. Right now, Obama's the 44th president, but he's only the 43rd person to be president. That's because Grover Cleveland counted as number 22 and number 24. Grover Cleveland took up 2 spots. So Obama, he's number 43, meaning Trump's running to be the 44th person to be president. 44, a number connected to killing as well. We'll talk more about it as we move on. With regards to Obama in gematria, Obama was elected November 4th, 2008, a date with 43 numerology. He gave his acceptance speech in Grant Park, a location with gematria 43. And of course, Obama has the connections to Lincoln through the land of Lincoln, Illinois. Lincoln was born on the 43rd day of the year. Civil War in gematria equals 43. Charleston in gematria equals 43. Think about how the Civil War began in Charleston. If you've never seen my work on the Civil War, check it out. The major wars in history, all by the numbers, showing how our history has been contrived by Masons, manipulated by Masons who operate by this numerological code. What's interesting is from February 20th, the date that Trump won the primary in South Carolina, which we're going to talk more about. There's a whole lot more to it that we haven't gotten to. The same date as the Kalamazoo shooting. From that date to May 23rd is a total span of 94 days. The reason 94 stands out to me is because April 4th is the 94th day of the year. When you write out April 4th, it sums to 144, just like when you write out 44. The first president to die in office died on April 4th. Martin Luther King Jr. assassinated on that day. His assassin would die 30 years later in prison on a date with 144 numerology. In the year MLK was assassinated, 68. Bobby Kennedy was assassinated 2 months and 2 days later. Assassinated by the numbers. The name Robert Kennedy equals 66. The name Sirhan equals 66. Robert Kennedy would die 6-6, June 6th at 1:44 in the morning, supposedly. His brother JFK died on the first day of Sagittarius, which has gematria of 144. JFK was the 35th president. The word Catholic equals 35. He's the only Catholic president to date. He was also the 44th term president. 44 and 144. We're going to be talking a lot about these numbers. Also notice that from February 20th to May 23rd is a span of 13 weeks and 3 days. That number 133 again. Span of 3 months and 4 days. The word murder equals 34. Interesting synchronicities. And with regards to Martin Luther King Jr. and Bobby Kennedy, who were killed in 68, at least supposedly, the name Barack Obama equals 68. The name Donald John Trump, his full name, equals 68. Donald Trump has a tower built after him that's 68 stories. He began his business career in the year 68. Back when his father only gave him $1 million. He says it like it's nothing. My father only gave me $1 million in the 60s. I mean, who are the people who go out and support this guy? How out of touch do you have to be with Americans to say you only got $1 million from your father in the 60s? How many millions of dollars would that be today? Most people in this nation are starving, scraping by, can barely pay their taxes. So anyway, 44 and 144, we're going to be talking a lot about these numbers. 44, the word kill sums to 44. Killer in Jewish gematria is 144. We're talking about what lines up for May 23rd, the 144th day of the year this year. So Trump, he won the South Carolina primary on February 20th, 2016, the date of the Kalamazoo shooting. That was a date with 58 numerology. Freemasonry in gematria equals 58. It is the Freemasons, again, who execute by this code. Talked about Abraham Lincoln. He died in Ford's Theater. I'll just show you this real quick. You should know this. Lincoln died in Ford's Theater. Earlier in his life, he had an assassination attempt on him at the Willard Hotel, which he survived. Ford's Theater spelled that way. Gematria 58, just like Willard Hotel. And the first assassination attempt was on February 23rd, 223. Masonic and Jewish gematria equals 223. The second assassination attempt, which killed him, he was shot by an actor in a theater. Think about that. Think about Donald Trump being the actor that he is, participating in TV shows, commercials, and more, the WWF. Anyhow, shot by an actor in a theater exactly 216 weeks later. Obama's born August 4th, the 216th day of the year. You see? So 58, important number. Rod Serling in Pythagorean gematria equals 58. The writer of The Twilight Zone, the pilot for The Twilight Zone came out in the year 58. It's about sending a man to the moon. That's the same year NASA was established. NASA would send a man to the moon, supposedly a decade later. Every astronaut to travel to space through NASA has been a Freemason. Just think about it. I have videos on the moon landing. It's all by the numbers. There's a reason it happened in the time of Cancer, which is ruled by the moon. Cancer's astrological symbol 69, the year of the moon landing. Anyhow, this date, February 20th, 2016, the date he won the primary in South Carolina, the date of the shooting. It was also a date with 38 numerology, and the word death equals 38. Obama ran on hope and change. Hope equals 44. Change equals 38. What's interesting is when you think about the Tupac song, Changes, the lyric about how we still haven't seen a black president, that song came out in 98, a decade before Obama was elected. The word prophet equals 98. And I'm not saying Tupac's a prophet. Tupac was very much intertwined with this Freemasonry. You know what day Tupac died? I'll show you something, Truth Seeker. Tupac died September 13th. Freemasonry, the big way, equals 139. And hold on, let's just tie in a few other things here. Willard Hotel, the big way, equals 139. Ford's Theater, the big way, equals 139. So Willard Hotel, Ford's Theater, all ties in with Freemasonry. Tupac Shakur died September 13th, which can be written 13/9. Who wants to guess the gematria of Tupac Shakur? Yes, and Tupac Shakur was born to his mother, who was a Black Panther, and the Black Panther Party was Masonic-controlled opposition from the beginning. Who founded the Black Panther Party? Huey P. Newton. And where did he find it, or found it? In Oakland. This year, Cam Newton, a blood relative of Huey P. Newton, became the 58th quarterback to start in a Super Bowl. He plays for the Panthers, which have a Black Panther symbol. The Super Bowl was just outside of Oakland, and this was no coincidence. If you haven't seen my work on the Super Bowl, I predicted there'd be a Black Panther tribute, the Broncos would win over the Panthers, and Von Miller would be the MVP. Of course, Von Miller wore the number 58. What's special about my prediction is I made it months before the Super Bowl happened. How did I do that? By understanding this number code, how the Freemasons are rigging history, how they're rigging news, how they're rigging sports, how they're intertwining it all together. White Bronco, Black Panther, all these race war stories in the media, picking up the pace. Speaking of Tupac Shakur, he also died on a date with 38 numerology. The word rapper, the small way, equals 38. These numbers show up all the time in major assassination hoaxes. I just need to establish the point so you can understand the history, the significance, the relevance. I have videos, hundreds of examples, these same numbers showing up. So anyhow, we got this story on Easter Sunday, right? Easter Sunday. A Donald Trump tombstone shows up in Central Park in New York. Easter Sunday has gematria 44, the kill number, the day that they remember the resurrection of Jesus after he was crucified on the cross. Notice that the tombstone has Donald Trump's year of birth. He's born in the year 46, and the numerology of the date that this happened, Easter Sunday, March 27th, 2016, a date with 46 numerology. The word sacrifice equals 46, another number that shows up around death. 46. From the date that tombstone was found until the date of May 23rd is 58 days. And here's my favorite part about this tombstone. Trump tombstone, as it was called in the media. Trump tombstone found in Central Park. Trump tombstone equals 58. 58 days before May 23rd. You see? Again, remember how we started on the date, February 20th, 2016, where the hints were dropped for May 23rd, a date with 58 numerology. Again, the number of the Freemasons. They said the tombstone was found in the sheep's meadow of the park, clearly a jab at the Trump supporters. If you're a Donald Trump supporter, here's my message to you. You shouldn't be supporting anybody. The elections are a rigged joke. Donald Trump is a mocking of the people. The powers that be have no respect for anybody in this society. They look at us like a bunch of morons, a bunch of sheep. And that's why they pander to us with people such as Donald Trump. Show you something else about Donald Trump. Remember when Obama became president? This whole birther thing started. Obama's the 44th president. It was Donald Trump who made this birther conversation popular, saying there was no support that he was born in the United States. You know, all of that, it's irrelevant to me. But what I want you to see is how birther has gematria 44. Donald Trump getting all this media attention at the beginning of the Obama presidency. Now, since May of 2015, Donald Trump has been on the TV, literally all networks, 24/7, 365. I've never seen anybody get this much media attention in my life. No one. All of you who think Trump's some outsider, wake up. If he was an outsider, you wouldn't hear anything about him. Just like you never heard anything about Ralph Nader all the decades he campaigned for president. Someone who had a real message. Someone who was intelligent. Someone who had the power to wake people up. You know, for those of you who like me and the way I speak, I was greatly influenced by Ralph Nader. I have to tell you though, now that I'm older, and something that happened between me and Ralph Nader in 2008, I'm not sure Ralph Nader was really on our side either. But even if he wasn't, he was a great speaker, he had a real message, he had the ability to enlighten people and help them understand what's really going on. My point is, he never got any media attention. The only time you ever heard about Ralph Nader is when they blamed what happened in Florida. What happened in Florida, where George W. Bush won the election, where his brother was governor. George W. Bush, 43rd president. Jeb Bush, 43rd governor of Florida. They're from New Haven, Connecticut, where Yale is. Yale equals 43. Family of Skull and Bones members. Masonic order. It's another topic. The point is, the reason you're getting this Donald Trump coverage is because the media, the powers that be, it's all part of a show. They're sucking people in. They're dividing people. Donald Trump's making fun of everyone. Race, religion, sex, disability. You know, never before has there been anyone who could trash talk every group and get away with it and still be thought of as presidential. We heard Ben Carson, another fraud earlier this year, say he was blacker than Obama. And the media said, down with him. That's not presidential. You can't say you're the most black. But Donald Trump, he can call everybody anything he wants. Still be on the TV 24/7. People don't get it. Anyhow, Sheep's Meadow, gematria of 133. What else, huh? White House, government, Trump, the 133rd richest man. I'm sure that's all a bunch of bullshit, too. Mr. Comeover. How can he be such a great businessman and be on TV talking all the bullshit he is all the time? And does he even sound intelligent? The guy has like 5 canned lines that he repeats over and over. He's going to build a wall and make it beautiful. What's that? He's going to bring all the jobs back. He just doesn't know how. He'll hire some policy advisors if he gets elected. People are going, woo, I love this Donald Trump. Sheep's Meadow. Sheep's Meadow. Anyhow, here we go. Donald Trump, all this May 23rd forecasting. He wins the primary in South Carolina on this special date. South Carolina has the May 23rd birthday. Look at the percentage he won by. 325. What if I read this backwards? May 23rd. You know what I mean? This is South Carolina. They had the May 23rd birthday. Let me take it to the top in case you forgot. All this stuff lining up for May 23rd. He wins this primary on this special date. 32.5%. And in case you're new to my channel, I started this blog, this research, in October 2013. And my very first post is about the Carolinas and how there's all of this stuff in entertainment, in media, in news. It's foreshadowing something major coming out of the Carolinas. In my first blog post from October 2013, I say whenever they do this next 9/11 in this country, these Carolinas are going to be connected. If you're not aware, the American Revolutionary War was won in the Carolinas. At least so they say. Rubio, he's out of the race now. Didn't that guy remind you of a wet willy, like kids used to give each other, you know? Wet willy in the ear. Every time I saw Marco Rubio, all I could think of was a wet willy. And then there's Ted Cruz. Ugh. I don't even have words for this guy, but look at what he won with. 22.3%. They don't count the votes. It's all rigged. It's all predetermined. It's all numerological tributes. This 223 is the number of the Masons. Masonics 223. Like I said, Lincoln was shot on February 23rd. Number that shows up all the time in major news stories. The Synagogue of Satan equals 223. That's the name given to the false Jews in the Bible that are said to rule in the end times. Think about how this world we live in is run by Zionist Jews. They control the media. They control governments. Donald Trump, he's got a bunch of Zionists in his corner. The other day he went before AIPAC, the Zionist lobby. People think this guy's an outsider? He's doing all the things that all the presidents do. Israel, the Zionists, these are the bosses. Before each debate, Ted Cruz always tucks his hand in his vest. That's a Masonic thing, putting the right hand in here. The hidden hand. If you read Psalm 74 in the Bible, it talks about God bringing out his right hand, as if God has hands. Anyhow, Masonic in simple English gematria equals 74, like Psalm 74, which has to do with this hidden right hand. And also on the topic of 223, if you haven't seen my recent work on the Brussels, Belgium bombing on March 22nd, which in Brussels is written day before the month 22/3, the location that blew up, the metro station, has gematria of 223. The last terrorist attack in Brussels was exactly 223 weeks earlier, plus a whole lot more. Check out my work on Brussels. Remember how the media used Donald Trump. They said, oh, Donald, he just talked about Brussels. He just talked about this. Yeah, Donald Trump, the outsider. The guy who says things, and the next thing you know, there's media headlines about it. Last year, he was talking about how Mexicans were doing all the raping, as if the only people who've ever raped anyone in the United States are Mexicans. I mean, just disgusting bullshit. Divisive commentary. And then what happened 2 days after he made that remark? We get this bullshit story about how a illegal Mexican immigrant named Juan Francisco Sanchez Lopez, the most contrived name I've ever heard, not to mention it was in San Francisco, supposedly found a federal agent's gun on a pier, picked it up in a towel, and accidentally shot a woman to death? What about that sounds real? What about any of this seems real? You know, Donald Trump for president. There's a reason they call this nation the American dream. Everyone's asleep here. Well, almost everyone. So anyhow, Donald winning with 32.5%. Look at this. He carried 44 of the 46 counties. And I guarantee you in none of those counties were any of the votes really counted. I'm sure all sorts of morons went out and voted for Donald Trump. This is a nation full of morons. But it doesn't matter. They pick who the presidents are going to be. The next president's already picked. I can almost guarantee you it's going to be Hillary Clinton. And that's part of the reason the whole time Donald Trump's been running, he's been doing all this stuff, man versus woman. You know, it's just like subtly mentally preparing us for the first female president. Notice how they say he had a 33%. They rounded up 33, the number of Freemason obsession. 44 counties, the kill number. Let's just go through some 44, 144. When you write out 44, it sums to 144. When you write out April 4th, 4-4 on the calendar, it sums to 144. JFK, the 44th term president, was shot on the first day of Sagittarius. His brother would die years later at 1:44 in the morning. 10 days later is interesting because Bobby Kennedy, before being shot and killed and dying at 1:44, 10 days earlier, he was in Roseburg, Oregon, where we had a shooting hoax not long ago. And he gave a message on gun control there. Keep in mind, Oregon's the 33rd state, the only with gematria of 74 like Masonic. Anyhow, 10 days before he was shot, he gave this speech on gun control. Also in history, Lincoln dreamed on April 4th that he would be shot and killed, only to be shot and killed 10 days later on Good Friday. 10 days later. There's a movie about a presidential assassination called Vantage Point, gematria of 144. Again, killer equals 144. There's some other ones, but that's enough. So in the Uber driver shooting, where we started, that happened on February 20th, the same date as the primary, they kept giving us this detail about how the driver, his final cab fare was $5.23. And here's CNN sure to show us. You have to ask yourself, when the media is feeding you details and stories, pay attention. Why are they telling you this information? Why does it matter that there was a mass shooting and the final cab fare was $5.23? It doesn't matter. The reason they do this is because they're cluing you in. 6 days after that shooting, there was another shooting hoax in Heston, Kansas. And the story was that the police showed up at 5:23 and immediately killed the shooter. 5:23 again. All in the same week. And what's Heston make you think of? Charlton Heston from my cold dead hands. You know, the NRA. NRA equals 33. It's all a big Masonic network. Also, Heston, Kansas has this gematria of 84, number we talked about in the beginning, and Obama's mama's from Kansas. Could we see a repeat of 1968 in 2016? 48 years later. Propaganda equals 48. Hoax equals 48. Illuminati equals 48. Evil equals 48. See what's going on here? It's bullshit stories, bullshit news, contrived by the numbers. They're like subtle clues. When you go and watch these movies, Murder by Numbers, you know, listen to these songs by the Police, Murder by Numbers. They're all, you know, little jokes. It's the powers that be putting information before our eyes, through our ears, into our brains that they know we're not going to process. Not without someone teaching us. And fortunately, somehow, by some miracle, I figured this out. You know why I figured it out? Because I was dedicated to bringing the truth to this world. The truth that I could see long before I understood gematria. I've understood since I was 17 years old that these presidential elections are a joke. George W. Bush was elected president when I was 17, and I said, no fucking way. This, you know, chump, asshole, son of a former president who wasn't that bright himself is now another president? I thought we didn't live in a nation of kings and queens. Now look, we're going to get Hillary. 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 For all of you who are hating me, for those of you who are thinking maybe I'm some liberal or something, let me just show you something about the Clintons real quick. This stuff's deeper than you know. They've been foreshadowing Hillary and Donald Trump in The Simpsons. The Simpsons is all about predictive programming. There's a lot I could show you, but this is what I want you to know. Bill Clinton was not born Bill Clinton. He was born William Jefferson Blythe. His father was murdered on a business trip traveling back to Arkansas from Chicago, where Hillary's born, where these Zionists and Masons largely operate out of. His father was murdered, or I shouldn't say murdered, he was found dead on the side of the road. They don't know what happened to him. Anyway, that happened May 17th, 1946. There's that year again, the year Trump was born. This date is special for the following reasons. It has numerology of 33 and 87. The name Clinton equals 33 and 87. Think about this. William Jefferson Blythe, murdered on this date with 33 and 87 numerology. His son, when he went off to Ivy League school, would take on the name Clinton. That syncs up with the date his father was murdered. Bill Clinton was born Bill Blythe. Most people don't know that. Also this date, May 17th, it's the 137th day of the year. That's special because 137 is the 33rd prime number. Washington, D.C. equals 137. American meridian equals 137. 137, the 33rd prime. Washington, D.C., the headquarters of the federal government. Federal equals 33. And if you don't know what the American meridian is, that's the meridian that cuts through Washington, D.C. How fitting. 137, 33 go together, coded into our nation's capital. It's also May 17th, the day that leaves 228 days left in the year. United States of America equals 228. So does death. And when you think about it, that makes a lot of sense. This nation began with a genocide. It's been at war ever since. It's been a killing machine. We have people who uphold the office of president who say things like, I'm a Christian and I want to carpet bomb brown Muslim people. And the people of the country don't even blink an eye at it. They just go back to school and work and do the Pledge of Allegiance and say, God bless America. You know, it's a sick nation we live in. Sick nation we live in. And I'll tell you a little bit more about these Clintons here. The name William Jefferson Clinton, if I spell it right, sums to 111. And why is that significant? Because the name Clinton comes from the original governors of New York. New York has this gematria of 111. If you don't follow my work, last year in spring training, I said the New York Mets would be in the 111th World Series. They made it. Everyone called me crazy, like so many always do. The reason why is because I'm exposing crazy people. I'm not crazy. I'm a sane person. I see the world for what it is. When I was 22 years old, when I first moved up to Seattle, I had this old landlord. He was about 82 at the time. And he said to me, he said, you have the rarest gift. He said, I didn't think people like you existed anymore. I thought people like you were extinct. He said, you have the gift of seeing things for what they are. Back then, I didn't appreciate what he had to say. Anyhow, one more point about Clinton. If Obama makes it through this term and Hillary Clinton becomes the 45th president, Bill Clinton was number 42. 42 plus 45 is 87. Clinton, again, equals 87. Could it be? It very well could. It very well could, Truth Seeker. So anyway, I'm going to link these other videos. If you haven't seen them, please check it out, especially these two right here. I'm also going to link my how-to gematria video. You know, I always link my how-to gematria video in the description, and it's like nobody finds it. I always get 10 questions per video at least. How can I learn how to gematria? And I'm like, my God, people, just look in the description. You click show more, stuff comes up. If you want to learn how to gematria, click right here. It's like that in every single video of mine. So it'll all be linked down there in this video as well. All right, until next time.